Hey, welcome back. I caught a cat. Oh, she goes, I have to listen to you all day long. I'm out of here. Uh, she keeps me humble. Yes, she does. That's why we love our pets, right? They keep you in the right scheme of things. Anyway, one of the interesting words I use when I start a prayer, because sometimes I say God, love, source, being, infinite, higher organizing principle. I'm giving all these different names to the infinite, and there's a purpose and a reason behind that, because for a lot of for a lot of people, the word God is just been so used and so overused with so many different meanings that for a lot of people it just doesn't have any meaning, and for a lot of people it does, but there's a variable, isn't there? So one of the words that I've always liked and used is the word source. I like the word source because of the definition, what it means, the source, the agency from which the resource emerges or emits. And if God is anything, God is certainly source. But when I say the word source with a capital S, it may give a different connotation or a new way of thinking about God, rather than some of the ideas that were fed into our head. When we were kids, we may not have heard the word source a lot, but we sure heard the word God a lot. And I have personally no problem with the word God. I love the word, and it's short and brief and right to the point. But the word source is what I'm going to talk about all this week. And source is exactly what it is. And if we can't find the source of things in our lives, then what we find is the effect of things. If we can't find the cause of something, we're always scrambling around looking for the effect. And so one of the great advantages of finding the source of something is that it never runs out. It's like the source of a river that's always running, that's always emerging, that's never ending, that is inexhaustible. This is what source is. And I'm not talking about a secondary source. I'm talking about the primary foundational source of the universe. One problem people have with God, and sometimes it's a very logical question that a kid would ask. It's like, well, who made God? You see it in all the atheist debates on the YouTube. And trust me, I've watched my share because I like to stay up to date on what people are thinking about these deep issues. But yeah, well, who made God? But that, of course, if you're a critical thinker and you're a trained philosopher, it simply brings up the question of infinite regress. You can always ask, well, if you identify a source or a God, you can always say, well, who made that? And thus defeat the argument. But we're talking about the source with a capital S, and there either is a source or there isn't. There's a source that has no source. There's an inexhaustible, inexplicable, beyond time and space, interpenetrating, overarching, underlying source of all things that has no source. If there isn't that, then there is no cause in the universe. And some people can live with that, and some people can't. But if you're one who's interested and has deep inquiries and questions about the source of things, we can begin to cultivate a true reliance upon source with a capital S. This source never runs out. It's inexhaustible. It is never ending. And by finding and cultivating a relationship, an actual conscious relationship, a living relationship with this source with a capital S, you're in relationship with something that never runs out. And think of the advantage of that. So many of us, and of course it's very human nature, we build our lives relying upon the effect of things, our job, our bank account, our 401k, our mate, our body, our health. These are all the effects of source. But if we build our lives on something other than primary foundational source, then those things will give way and we will be bereft. This is the hallway that we hear people talk about. One door closes, another door opens, but it doesn't seem to open immediately. We lose a job and it's a long time before you get the next good one, or we lose a mate and we're sad and grieving for a very long time, or we lose all of our money in a bad business deal and then we're living in scarcity and poverty for a very long time. This is the effect of living, misidentifying what source is. When we're in meditation and we become receptive, then we connect with this infinite source. And when you actually have access to source, you have access to that, the power that builds worlds, the power that keeps planets spinning around the sun, the power that turns embryos into babies and seeds into flowers. This is the source of all power. Now, this is another way of thinking about God, and there's nothing behind or propping up source. It is source. And for a lot of people, this is a very alien and unusual way of, it's disorienting to think this way. It's like, no, it's my bank account, it's my relationship, it's my reputation, it's my intellect. That's my source. Well, if you think that, go ahead and watch what happens. But if we get quiet and actually do connect with this source and allow it to connect to us, you have immediate access to something that is always available, never runs out, is inexhaustible, and can always immediately give you what you need in the moment, literally out of thin air, because it's not made of substance. It's not made of material. It is the quantum goo of the universe. It is life, light, love, and truth itself that's instantly available when you know how to connect with it. If you don't, we have to live on its secondaries. I suggest going primary and finding source, and we'll talk about it all week long. I hope I've stimulated some thought. May you find source today. See you.